session is to discuss civil and criminal law that is relevant to the door supervisors. So, by the end of this session, you'll be able to have a quick read of the outcomes. You're on civil and criminal law. That's it. Civil and criminal law. Okay. So, by the end of the session, you'll be able to show an understanding of civil and criminal law, identify types of assaults, list other criminal offences that door supervisors may deal with, and list the options available when the law is broken, state the requirements relating to the use of force, and then state what is meant by reasonable and necessary force. Okay, so let's first of all start with the first outcome. Show an understanding of civil and criminal law. Now, who can tell me what civil law? What does that mean? What's civil law?
Dealing with people.
Dealing with people, yeah. What sort of cases will come under civil law?
Domestic crimes?
Domestic crimes?
No, domestic issues.
Domestic issues. What sort of issues?
Issue like, fighting.
Fighting.
Yeah.
No.
What kind of fighting?
Like divorce and stuff like that.
Right,
That's civil.
divorce, exactly. Where there's no sort of violence.
Yeah.
Where there's no violence, no threats of violence or anything like that. Because if there were threats of violence, that's not civil, is it? Okay. So if you want to settle something, maybe someone owes you money, yeah? And if they owe you money, you don't go and call the police, do you?
No.
But you can sort it out through civil courts, can't you? If someone, how many of you own property here? Or you live in property? If you live in property, own property, if someone, say for example, put a fence over your boundary, so the fence is erected on your land, it's not a criminal offence, but you take matters through the civil law in order to sort that matter out, isn't it? So civil law is a branch of law that regulates the affairs of private citizens. Okay, private citizens is where one takes action against another. And that could be a person taking action against another person. It may be an institution taking action against another institution, or again, a person against an institution, or institution versus person. Okay? The idea is for them to seek some kind of restitution or compensation. How many of you have ever taken someone to court? Civil matter. No? Might be you were unfairly dismissed in the workplace, so you take your boss to a tribunal. Remember I mentioned an issue yesterday about someone taking us to a tribunal over a issue, but we won because it was deemed to be lawful dismissal. Okay? Do you remember that I spoke about the license issue? Okay, so civil law is a branch of law that regulates the affairs of private citizens. We've given examples such as libel. That's an example. You could be liable over an issue. Could be trespass. Now I'll come back to trespass. Yeah, it could be an accident, and that you want to get compensation, a compensation claim against someone else. So libel, trespass. Now, who can tell me what is trespass? What does trespass mean?
Walking in people's land.
When you're on someone's land,
Yeah.
just being on someone's land. Yes,
Trespass is taken.
No permission.
that's right.
Permission, yeah.
So you're on someone's land without permission. So you're a trespasser, aren't you? So, for example, if you came here and you had no right to be here, then you are a trespasser. You're not invited. Trespassing itself is not a criminal offence. It's a civil matter. If it's trespass with intent, then it becomes criminal. Alright? So, these are just examples. We looked at libel, slander, divorce, trespass. Trespass is an issue as a security officer or door supervisor that you may come up with against people who are trespassers, and you'll have to deal with them. Alright? So, We said that trespass is committed by a person who's improperly on someone else's property without their consent, without their permission. Not supposed to be there, trespassers. Alright? Now, working in licensed premises and stores, shops, etc., the stores have an open invitation, don't they?
Yeah.
You notice that the shops are either open or they're closed. When they're open,
Everyone can come in.
exactly, there's an open sign. It means they don't specifically send you invitations, do they? Say, we're open today, please come and shop at our store. But they have an open sign. That means there's an open invitation. That means everyone's invited. Alright? But there are times when that open invitation is revoked, it's removed. And at that point, the person becomes a trespasser. Okay? Give you an example of this. Someone's drunk. Someone's drunk on a licensed premises. Now, it's unlawful for them to be there. It's unlawful to permit drunkenness or disorderly conduct. So, and also, the presence of someone who is drunk on a licensed premises may affect the license holder. So, that person must be asked to leave. They're now a trespasser. They're no longer invited to be there. Okay? So, there are ways in which we deal with trespassers. If a trespasser came to your house, for example, how would you deal with that trespasser? What would you do? You call the police, yeah? What else can you do?
Talk to him, ask him to leave.
You can ask him to leave. Yes, James, what would you say?
The same.
The same. You can ask him to leave, can't you? What else can you do?
You accept the leave, but when he refuses, you call the police.
You would say that? Anything else?
Use your force.
Yeah, you can use force. You can use force to remove them. Now let me say this real quick. We use force as a last resort.
Yeah.
When all else has failed. Okay? Then we use force.
That's allowed because of law.
Yeah, it's got to be reasonable force. It has to be reasonable. In other words, it has to be reasonable. In other words, proportionate to the person, the repelling force they're giving. It must be justifiable. It must be reasonable, and it must be justifiable. We'll come back to that later on. Okay? So that's a trespass. Right. Criminal law. So we looked at civil law. Criminal law. Who can tell me what this criminal law? What does that mean? What's criminal law?
A crime is committed.
It's when a crime is committed. Okay, I like that. Anything else? What do you mean by that? Crime is
Criminal
committed.
law is something that
and all
is when it's illegal, and if you do it, it's something illegal and
Yeah, it's very illegal. They've broken the law.
they've broken the law.
In other words, there's got to be laws in place, and if you break those laws, these are laws that are set by the state. Yeah, laws of the land. You break those laws, you're criminal.
You're criminal.
The laws are put there. They're like boundaries for us. So we know that we need to work within the boundaries. So if you work outside those boundaries, then you get in trouble, don't you?
Yeah.
So criminal law is a branch of law that deals with offences that are against society. Now, there's two parts of criminal law in England and Wales. There's what is known as common law. I'll write that down. Okay, and statute law. Common law. Yeah. And statute law. Okay, these are the two branches of criminal law. Right, how many people heard of common law? Who's heard of common law here? Okay, what do you think common law is? You've heard of it? Anyone else? Okay, common law is, can we just make it simple and say that common law are the old laws? It's good to say it that way. It's where decisions have been made by judges. There's been test cases in place. Alright? And the common law offences are the ones that we normally perceive to be crimes. It's what you normally perceive to be crimes. So examples of